I'm grateful for the invitation to come and meet you. I had really great sense of people that really are really very nice, almost like Texans, like. So it's really a good experience. So the title to my presentation or my workshop is Evangelism Beyond the Red Doors. And as you can recognize, this is our building right there where I'm at in Maynard, Texas, and I'm Alex Montes-Vela. So this is one way that you can contact me. That's one way that you can follow me or follow what I'm doing. I was born in Peru. I don't know if you, anybody, I know somebody told me that they had been in Peru just recently. But, okay, yeah. And in a town called Huacho, which is about maybe 4 hours north of Lima. And when I was 7 years old, my family moved to Guatemala. Anybody been in Guatemala here? Guatemala, yeah. So my father went to seminary in Guatemala, so we moved there when I was 7 years old. And 4 years later, we came to the United States. One thing that my dad did is that he planted a church. He started a church as a seminarian. And it was a 4-year program where he studied. So in the 4 years, they were able to buy some land and get a building built. And people from Texas came to help him build it. And when he graduated, they asked him, would you want to come to Texas? And he accepted, and that's how we came in. That car right there that you see, our transportation before the car has always been motorcycle, where all 4 of us will go, like the kids in the middle and the mom in the back and the dad, like that kind of thing. You had to hold on, really, really tight.
We became very close.
Yes, we did. Yeah, we very close family. But the car was giving us a raffle there at the seminary where he was studying, and he won the car, not even knowing how to drive it or anything like that. So, and he won the car. It was from a family, some missionaries from Michigan, and so it was a beautiful car for us. And I'm pretty short, right? But my dad is a little bit shorter than me, and they will see him driving the car. They thought there was nobody driving the car at the beginning, but. So he learned to drive, and a few weeks later, we drove from Guatemala all the way to the United States. So about two days of trip, but we became super close with each other too, because we were just in that small car. And everywhere we went, my father made sure that he could just drive off, because he couldn't go backwards. What do you call it? And so everywhere he went, he would park. So we could just start our next part of the trip. Unless he couldn't, so he had to get somebody from wherever, can you back up my car and then get on our way. That's my sister and my dad now, and with my mom and my dad. Depending on what day it is, she will have a different color of hair. And I don't know if you guys know, but she's a great singer. And my wife, she's from Vietnam. And she was born in Pleiku. And in 1975, the same year that I was leaving Peru, she left Vietnam. So we always say that we left at the same time, just so we can meet in Texas, Houston, Texas. And she was a member of 12 brothers and sisters there. And my wife is the one in the middle right here. And you can just imagine it's a large family with cousins and so forth. So this is my kids and my wife, and my son just got married some years ago to somebody from El Salvador. And so my family is becoming more, more international, I always say. And that's how we looked just a few weeks ago as we celebrated my mom's birthday. And where is Maynard? Because I think you asked me, where's Maynard or Manor? Actually pronounced Maynard. It's right out of Austin. This is Maynard right here. This is the Austin area right here. Austin. And that's my context. This is mi contexto. Does anybody need me to say things in Spanish? ¿Alguien necesita que lo haga en español? Porque lo puedo hacer en las dos cosas. I can do it in both. So what I want to invite you right now is, I know I see people in different tables. If you can kind of introduce, how many of you know each other already? You guys kind of know each other? Yeah? So why don't you introduce yourselves to each other, and then say the first thing to comes to mind, and share this when you hear the word evangelism, okay? And so you can introduce yourself to each other, and then say, what is the first thing that you think about, or what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word evangelism?
So just within tables.
Yeah, within the tables. Hang on, I'll join you.
Hi, Alex. I'm Jim. What an amazing journey. What an amazing journey. And I grew up as the kid of a Coast Guard officer.
Okay.
But, your parents are still with you, which is a good thing. Montes-Vela.
Yes. Well, thank you for participating. I see that you guys are. I really like your conversations. So, what kind of things did you guys hear when you were talking about evangelism? What are? Because I heard some things outside when I was walking around. People were asking me what I was doing here. The big E and things like that. So things that were here. They're like, what are they asking us to do? So, what kind of things have you heard? Anybody would like to share what you heard among yourself?
So we got first impressions. Somebody said someone with white shoes,
Somebody with white shoes, okay.
and someone screaming from a street corner,
Okay.
and then reaching out to people.
Thank you so much. I forgot my white shoes. So next time I'll bring mine. Yes.
Walking, sharing, prayer, and how to get out of the scary place that evangelism surfaces.
How about back here?
We heard a lot about how evangelism, like you can do it through action as well. It can be very relatable. Anything as far as reaching out to your community. Mel was telling us about how at St. John's, India, they have a music program open to the community for children at that fest. So that's a form of evangelism where you can take the opportunity to share God's love through showing people what it looks like.
Thank you. How about right here?
We heard get out of the church,
Out of the church.
sharing good news, bringing people to Jesus, bringing people into the church. We talked about that there was a fair, a church fair, or a monastery fair, actually, that brings the neighborhood in. Like cathedrals putting helter-skelters,
Okay.
fairground rides inside a cathedral. Great ideas.
How about this still right here with a Texas hat right here?
The first thing that we developed was that the love of God can be shared. The gospel, the salvation can be shared, and that sharing of love is evangelism. And I'm sure that there are many ways to express it. I think that outreach to the community and service to others also allows you the channels to express that love and to give you the opportunities to talk about the gospel to others and to give them the possibility of salvation through that.
Thank you. How about you guys over there?
We also shared a lot about examples, being examples, and how witnessing when Christ has actually worked miracles in our lives.
How about this group here?
You asked for the first word that came in our mind.
Mhm.
The first word that came into my mind is that evangelism is one of the bishop's 5 goals.
Yes.
I remember the first time I heard that it was from my father who was Baptist, and his impression, he looked forward to it when the pictures would come through. And just read about Amy McPherson was her last name. And what a production she used to put on as well.
Thank you so much. Well, I have a definition that I found on the internet. Now, actually, in the Episcopal Church's website about evangelism, it reminds us of where this word came from and what it means. About gospel, glad tidings, or good news, and what Jesus invited us, to go into the world and to be able to share this good news. So if it's good news, I mean, I think when people share good news, you know, if you win the lottery or something like that, people going, I mean, now that we have social media, it just goes everywhere, right? And the people like to share those kind of things that they consider good news, right? I know that when I get a good score on a test, you know, I want to tell everybody, you know, I want to tell people the good news. And so for me, you know, it's asking that question about what is good, because it seems like there's a lot of fear on this word. And like, what am I supposed to be doing? I don't know it. Like, I need to be prepared. I need to go to school to know how to do this. Where I think what I've been hearing here about in what you just shared is that it's about your own experience, or you have experienced it, now you're kind of sharing it to others. And you're trying to interpret whatever you experience to different contexts. So when we look at Scripture, this is some of my favorite verses right here. You know, for God loved the world so much that he gave his one and only Son, so that everyone who believes in him would not perish but have eternal life. You know, anybody know that one right there? Heard that one? So just making sure. You know, like I remember the first time that I came to the States, I saw on the TV somebody with a sign that said John 3:16. And it had like this colorful, I was like, man, everybody's a Christian there in the United States. That's what I thought. Another of my favorite verses is this one from the Psalm 36. Your unfailing love, O Lord, is as vast as the heavens. Your faithfulness reaches beyond the clouds. You know, this is experience. You know, this is what I've experienced. I not only have read it and memorized it, but I've experienced that in my own life. You know, and I am convinced that nothing can ever separate us from God's love. You know? That's good news, right? Yeah. That's good news. I mean, this is something that we see in Scripture. We experience it throughout the years in our liturgy. But these are great news. And people are looking for hope, right? They're looking like what we see we seek for love, we seek freedom, abundant life. All of us want those things, right? We want this message, whatever we are sharing, to be loving, liberating, and life-giving. I want that. And that's been my experience. Let me share a little bit about I said that we left Peru and we went to Guatemala. What I didn't mention is that we were in a different denomination that sent my dad to seminary. We were in the Christian Missionary Alliance denomination, very different from the Episcopal Church. Yeah. And it was during a time of a very of hardship for my parents. We had come to the United States, and a few years later we moved to Houston, which is a bigger city. And my parents were trying to, find a place to live, get situated in a place before they could bring us from South Texas to Houston. And my dad couldn't find a job as a pastor. And he knew, he had all these different business cards, calling people. Do you know anything? Anybody done that before? Have you heard something like, please let me know. No one. So he started doing odd jobs. He was doing gardening. He was cleaning offices, and he was delivering pizza. And one of these days when he was delivering pizza, he got mugged. So he got beat up really hard, and they took his pizza and his money. And one of the things he says is that he pretended that he just was unconscious so that the guy would leave and that was beating him. And he did. So he ended up in a hospital in Houston looking like Rocky. You can just imagine with the eyes all big and frustrated, not knowing what to do. He again went into all those different business cards that he had, calling people that he knew, and nobody was available. And then he saw this business card from a guy that he had met at an evangelism conference. And he was an Episcopalian. And he said, man, that was the last time I talked to this guy. I wonder if he'll respond. He's here in Houston. Yeah. So he called. And the guy answered. And he said, I cannot come right now, because I'm about to do a quinceañera. But as soon as I'm done, I'll be there. So I don't know, maybe an hour later, enters this guy still with vestments and everything on, through these doors of this emergency room. And for my dad, it was like seeing Jesus coming to him. And this priest sat down with my dad, and my dad cried. He felt embraced by this person that didn't take because I know that if they call me, I'm going to take off my robes and put my sound thing over here and make sure that I look okay before I go and do things. And this guy didn't do none of those things. And that's why we're in the Episcopal Church. Because of this person that left the comfort to go out into the place where the good news needed to be heard. And not only heard, but experienced. And I remember the first time that when my dad shared this story with us, and we came to this Episcopal church, and we had grown up seeing everything that looked Catholic, with candles and everything, was from the devil. I mean, that's how we grew up. And I said, like, what are you doing here, Dad? You're like, what is this? What is going on here? But we heard the same message being proclaimed. But beyond that, we were seeing it put into action, into real ways. And that's how we became to the Episcopal Church. So a lot of the evangelism is really telling those stories. I've told the stories many times when I hear somebody that needs to hear something like that. I tell the story about when I was in the Army. How many people have been in the military here? Yeah. And I was doing most of my time, I did it in Fort Stewart, Georgia. Anybody know Fort Stewart, Georgia? Pretty, what do you call it, humid place. and I was hoping that I was going to finish my 4 years in the Army there. And right before before the last year, they sent me to Korea. And I was here like, wow, like, come on now. I only have 1 more year to go. What can you just, And the thing that hurt me is because my wife was expecting a child, our second baby, and I couldn't take them with me. And so I was doing everything. I was going from place to place, nothing. So I ended up going a week after my daughter was born. I was on the plane to go to South Korea. I arrived there, and I was so angry. I was angry with everybody. I mean, I thought everybody was having a good time there. I could see them smiling, eating, and doing all the different things. I couldn't do that. And I remember going into my room and being like frustrated, and I even tried to cry, but I couldn't. I don't know if anybody has been in a situation when you cannot cry. And I tried, and I was trying to, I would make the sounds. Like, and nothing will come out. And that went on for days, months, and months. Then I had never drank before. I started drinking there. It was very much accessible there. I mean, you get out of the Camp Casey, Korea, into this just like almost like a little city of just bars. First floor, second floor. You were going like, ooh, 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 and by the time you didn't even know what was happening, and how you get home. How you get to your room. So that was my routine. Everything was just so I could make it through the pain of not being with my family. Seeing that when they sent me some pictures of my daughter, that she had changed so much from one moment to the other, and I was missing all those different things. And I was angry. I'm a pastor's son, right? Priest son. Wasn't going to church. I remember people would come to my door on Sunday mornings, and I would turn off the lights, make sure that nobody knew that. I know none of you have done that, right? And that was my life. One day I got a box from my family. My sister sent me a box with all these things that you cannot get in Korea, but that I like. And I was so excited, I'll go get it and try to hide it, because when you have a box, when you're in the military, everybody's your friend. Everybody wants to see what you have, and you have to be generous and giving it away, things like that. But somehow I got to my room without nobody getting a hold of me, and closed my door, turned off the light now. And I opened this box, and there was all these cookies and stuff that I like. And in there was a cassette. Anybody remember what a cassette is? Yeah? You guys know what a cassette, right? And so then I said, like, what is this? And I went to get my Walkman. Anybody know what a Walkman is? You guys remember those things? Yeah? So I opened it, put it in there, and put on my big earphones, the orange ones, the ones that had like the little, like foam, like that. And I push play. And the first song that came out was a song called Renuévame, which means renew me. And the song says, Renuévame, Señor Jesús. Renew me, Lord Jesus. I don't want to be the same. Yo no quiero ser igual. Because everything that is within me, porque todo lo que hay dentro de mí, needs more and more of you. Necesita más y más de ti. it was like those words were the words that had been trying to say for 6 months. In that place of frustration, in the place of darkness, in the place of despair, hopelessness. And all of a sudden I felt something. And I rewinded, because you had to rewind. Remember, you cannot just click and play again. It was like, yeah. So you go, and I played it again, and all of a sudden, almost like the chains that had been grabbing me all those months started to fade away, and the tears and everything came out. And I rewinded it again. And I listened until the song was probably going like, because it was stretched. And at that moment, I heard the good news, the prayer that I need to make, the words that I need to say. And the realization that God was with me even through all those different things that I was experiencing. That's the good news. You know? So in the same way that I'm doing it here, I know that all of you guys have good news to share. There's stories of when you've seen Jesus, when you've seen God in action. Not only in Scripture, but all of a sudden the Scripture becomes a reality in your life. And that's what evangelism is about, of telling that story. Telling that story with different things, like you say, like doing things for people, opening up your space. We're going to talk about let me get some water, sorry. We're going to talk about evangelism beyond the red doors. I'm meaning both ways. I mean, we do need to go out because we need to go where Jesus is at. Because Jesus is already waiting for us in those places. But also to be able to break down our own doors so people can experience the good news. So I'm sure that all of you guys have a lot of, where's my sister's story right there. So let's take some time right now, okay, in our small groups again. And maybe we can come, if some people can come over here to make another group right here. And maybe, so we can share our own story. I'm going to give you a few minutes to think about what that story may be. And then share it with each other. Okay? You guys ready? Would that be okay? Checking with you first because I don't want you to be uncomfortable with the big E. Okay? So if anybody wants to come here and we'll take some minutes again.
It was 5 o'clock, and I haven't been on the freeway in 3 months, okay? And I don't see very well out of my peripherals.
So one of the things about evangelism, about telling your stories, that sometimes we think that God showed up in your life. All right? All right, let me get you guys back over here. I know, right?
Let us pray.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. So how did I feel for some of you guys? How did I feel? Great? Yeah? I know that in our table, they asked, why don't we get more opportunities to do this in our life as communities? I mean, when we have like lunches and things like that, how can you lead people to tell that story? Because the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. And it's your story and it's authentic. It's nobody else's story. It's how Jesus showed up in your own life. So part of it is find those opportunities to do that in your own context. Because I think, how many churches are here represented? A bunch, right? Yes. So there's different situations depending on where you're at, different opportunities that surround you. But the community itself needs to experience that themselves to be able to be freed to tell that story. We, in our St. Mary Magdalene, it's a lot about that. I model it because I tell myself, this is the way that I know how to tell people about Jesus. When I was sent to Maynard, there was no Mary Magdalene. And I didn't know Maynard. I didn't even know it was pronounced Maynard. And I accepted before even knowing where it was at. So I missed it when I passed through it, and it was a very small town. And I already had talked to the bishop and everything. I said, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? But it has now become my community. And I want to tell you a little bit about that. Yeah, it's It's in the Austin. It's about 10 miles from Austin, so very close to Austin. This is my communion kit or portable communion set. Right? Has anybody seen that? Anybody have one of those? Yeah. That one was given to me when I became a priest, when I was ordained to the priesthood, by the church where I was doing my curacy, and it's beautiful. It was I would shine it all the time, make sure that it had oils and things like that for the wood, and then the things inside were very beautiful and shiny. Yeah? And I took care of them. I hardly used it, but it was there, because it had like you saw, it had my name on it. I was thinking like, man, it must be very important, to have my name on it. And I had it in a place where I could see it. I placed it in a place, like, and when I would pass by it, I would go, oh wow, and then shine it a little bit more, So I was doing. When I moved to Maynard, as you know, there was no community, so they gave me other tasks to do, and there was a community about 30 miles from where I was at that needed somebody to be there as a priest, as an interim, as they search for a permanent vicar for that community. So I spent 9 months in that community, which is called San Francisco de Asís, which is in southwest Austin, about 30 miles from Maynard. And there was a lot of activity with quinceañeras, baptisms, weddings, that I had to make sure that I had very, very scheduled and know what I was about to do. I didn't want to baptize somebody that was getting married and doing a quinceañera with somebody. So those kind of things, And it was like that. It was very, very, very booked. And that's why they needed somebody to be there. And one Friday, a woman came, to the office and said, I need to talk to the priest. I said, like, I'm the priest. I need somebody to do the quinceañera for my daughter. Okay, well, let's look at the calendar, but it's tomorrow. I said, like, do you have space here to do it? I said, like, no, look at my calendar. It's all filled up right here with things. I'm sorry, I'm not able to fit you in. And then she kept going. Can you please come? I just need somebody to bless my daughter. And I made my face, like the priest face, with a smile. Like, oh, all right, okay. I can't, But she was very persistent. I said, like, okay, I'll go. Tell me where is your address? And she told me their address. It was in a town much further from Maynard, another 15 miles from where this church was at. So I was going to be further away from my house. It's in the summer in Houston, Texas, in Austin. So it's hot, and now I'm going to have to go somewhere else. And wow, So I hesitantly said yes. And then so the next day in the morning, coming with all my things, as I was putting in my car, so like, so how am I going to take communion to that? So I could have the celebration there at their house, So then I saw the box and I tried to ignore it. And so then I said, like, well, I guess this is it's portable, right? So then I took it and I had it on my car, and I got to the church, and I was walking from my car to the building, and carrying my vestments and my Book of Common Prayer and my kit, and all of a sudden I saw it falling off my hand. And it's almost like slow motion, when things that you, like my box that I shine, that I care for, that gives me meaning. And it just hit the pavement. And I saw the hinges coming off. And the things that were inside flying off, the glass, all these different things, like in the air. And I was like, with my vestment, my books, and all that stuff, right? Luckily, it didn't break. It got some dents and but the hinges did come off. The wood did get scratched. I saw these glass things pop, bouncing off the ground and into the grass. And I said, like, wow, I survived, but I was so angry. And I said, like, wow, just because of these people, come on, So I put it back, and I went and I did all, my baptism, my wedding, and all this stuff, right? And it came to the time that I needed to go to the house. And it was late in the afternoon. I was already tired. It was hot outside. And again, I'm confronted with my box. That's not the box that I had when I came. It was all scratched up, destroyed. So then I just grabbed it, and got in my car and trying to find on GPS, like, where's this house? And I saw that there was no, it was a trailer park, and there was no definite, how do you know where the house is at? And so I was like, oh my gosh, man, these people better be happy that I'm coming. They better be, like very grateful that I'm coming, because I'm bringing all this stuff right here and driving. And I mean, that was my conversation with myself the whole way. And then I found my way to where the trailer park was at, and I was thinking, like, how am I gonna find that house? And then all of a sudden I saw some balloons, so I knew that it was somewhere in that direction. So I started driving. I said, like, man, they better have signs saying, "Welcome," thank you for coming or something, and a red carpet or something so that I could walk on it and with my drink and things like that, with a fan, and this is what I wanted. So like, they better be like that. And as I got to the entrance of this property, I saw that they had set up like a table for the communion with with chairs, and I saw the kids running and screaming and laughing, and this family frantically getting ready for this thing, for this celebration. And at that moment, I realized that I wasn't bringing something to them. They were bringing something to me. That Jesus was already there, celebrating. And the reason why I was driving all the way over there was so I could experience Jesus. And what that taught me is that box needed to break. They needed to break so that I could be free to use it wherever God is calling me, wherever I'm being set, that I needed to be free from having to like shine it and make sure that I didn't. It's like when you get a brand new car, right? Yeah. It's like you park it on the other side of the place, right? And then you walk all the way over there. You need somebody to come and pick you up to take you to the place that you're going, right? Yeah. So that's the way I felt about these things. And what that became a metaphor for my own ministry, because at that moment I was continuing to be evangelized. I was being evangelized with the people that I thought I was bringing the good news. They were evangelizing me. And I knew that had to have some impact in the way that I would plant and start this community of St. Mary Magdalene. So this is how we started gathering. It was the first gathering in my house. I had already lived in the area for about a year and a half. And I called these people like, hey, you guys want to come and gather with me? Please. And one family accepted and another one there. They're pretty uncomfortable because I had been holding on for this thing for about a year and a half. So I wanted to tell them what we're going to be doing. And our coffee table in our house became the altar. And we started gathering there. Very interesting that when the altar is really low, everybody has access. Everybody can touch. And I remember the kids there, because the people that started coming, people didn't go to church. These were one family that I met at the church where I was doing the intern work, but he lived very close to Maynard, closer than to drive all the way over there. He said, like, when you go back to what you're doing, we want to go with you to help you. And they started inviting their own friends and people they had no connection to church. So when kids that have no experience in church, they start touching because they see shiny things, right? We're pretty shiny, and you want to touch. They open the bread box, and the parents are like, what are you doing? But it gave me an opportunity to be able to tell people that this is accessible to all. This is not something that I'm bringing to them or that the Episcopal Church is bringing or the church itself. But this is something that is being given freely to us, and that it's accessible to them. Bless you. They didn't know about the different our routines and our calendars, so I had to do that in my own home. I'm always wondering what people may have said, with the people that were out. But the other houses, like, what are they doing over there? What is that funny stuff, And little by little, so it could become part of their own lives, And they started inviting more people, and that's how it was in my home right there. We had a 2-story house, so the children will have a space, during the service to go and learn in their own language, and that's how they are right there. People, when you invite people, when you invite people to your home, they go everywhere. They go everywhere, and like I'm an introvert. I don't know about you guys, but I'm an introvert. My wife is an introvert. We're very private. When we have people, we really plan that. But when people that I didn't know, very different from me, different stories than I had. They went everywhere. They open the closet, they look inside, they go underneath and so forth. My wife is a hairstylist, and when they found out that my wife was a hairstylist, there was like people making, appointments after our gathering to have their hair done and stuff like that. And so there were people in my bedroom sitting down, almost like a waiting area, and people, getting their hair done. And I was like looking at the church planting books, I was like, where is this stuff about? There's nothing that prepare me to do this. But what he did, it was evangelizing my wife, myself, and my children. That's what church is supposed to be about. It's about opening ourselves up, opening everything. That when there's a spill, because there was a lot of spills, like Kool-Aid and juice and all these different things on my carpet, and it was like, instead of being angry about it, to be able to celebrate, there's something happening here. I should be crying if there's nothing, no stains on my carpet, because there's nothing happening. And that's these people evangelized me. They transformed me in my life. I'm grateful for each of them that they took the risk to come and become part of our community. And we ate a lot. Yeah. And I mean, the first time we gathered, I make sure that I had food because I wanted them to stay a little bit longer so I could get to know them and maybe get their addresses and stuff like that, But it became something that we did weekly. And they're great cooks, and it's a lot of fun. People with different stories, like I said. That's in my home. Then we had to move somewhere more public. And one thing that I didn't say is that these are people that came from a Hispanic, Latino background, where their church experiences always being in Spanish. That's how they heard it. That's how they knew the songs. That's how they were able to communicate. But the task that they had given me is for this community to be multi-ethnic, that it will resemble the demographics around us, that if this is 60% this, 20% this, that somehow they will start being seen in our community. And I had to convince these people, my brothers and sisters, that we're going to start doing everything bilingually, because I knew that it wasn't my plan. My plan was for everything to be in English because that's the language that may be common, but I couldn't strip them from who they are. I'm Latino, but I'm fully bilingual. I've been here for a long time. And I didn't know how to prepare, but we just started doing it. And they're like, what are we doing? They would tell me, because I would start trying to learn how to preach bilingually. And they were going like, Padre, no te entendemos nada. We don't understand what you're saying because you're confusing them, estás confundiendo. They said, like, give me a chance. Let me get some more experience here. But what they saw is that the children were connecting more with what we were doing. And that was the selling point for them. And they said, like, maybe we should continue to try. And so they spent with me 8 months in my home, just trying to train our ears and our mouths to do these things bilingually. And like I said, all of us were born outside of the United States. There were Cubans, Nicaraguans, Mexicans, and myself and my wife from Vietnam. She was there too. And I pray for this group that became, these are people that didn't go to church, And I asked them, why didn't you go to church? Well, they always look at me funny. They don't like the way my children act. They need to act a certain way. They look at my tattoos. Because these are the ones that you get in downtown Austin. These were the ones you get in jail, prison. And they said, like, they started. But these were the real church planters that became part of our community. So we prayed for them. We got our signs. I went to my dad's church and I got everything I could. Put them in those boxes. The diocese gave us this trailer to put all our things. We rented some sound equipment, and we transformed this cafeteria into our worship space. So that was our first time that we actually had almost like a table beyond my coffee table, and we just used what we had. This right here is a chasuble. I don't think you can tell. It's like, because that matched the stuff in the purse and everything. So like, that's gonna look good. It was funny that years later, when somebody made one for us, they put the little hole too on the for the because they thought that's the way it was. That's the way it was. Because they said that's the way that we put the thing there. It has to be like that. So I'm wondering, how many things do we do in our churches, in the beginning for a different reason, and we keep on doing it the same thing. But that became, it's something about our sacramental life is that space just gets created. You transform the space. They give us a lot of access, to use the aisles and everything to do our children's formation area. And our sign, we did, like I said, we did everything in both languages. And this was the first gathering. We didn't invite anybody. We started August the 1st of 2010 in this borrowed space, and we didn't make any invitations or we didn't tell anybody. We wanted to practice being there for at least a month. That month had 5 Sundays, and so let's just make sure that we know what we were doing. And some of them, how do you pass out the offering plate? We had never done it. And how do you do that? Who are we going to ask? So these are that group right there on August the 1st. But all these other people right here, they came all the way from Houston. They drove 2.5 hours, about 60 people from my dad's church to come and encourage us. And one of the things that they did is they prayed for all of us. And for my community, that was like they were talking for days about how they felt. That they knew that this community or the community that we were part of was more beyond Manor. They saw these people that had experienced something that they were willing to come and be there. And they wanted these people from my dad's church, they're all leaders, so they came. They wanted to do all the different things. It's like, no, they need to show my people how to do these things. And we got to practice and see, what could be. And that was our first gathering where other people from the Manor area came that had heard about us, that had curiosity, plus other people from my dad's church, plus some people from other places that I had been part of my life, my faith walk. And later on in October, just about a month and a half after we had moved to the school, we had our first bishop's visit. And that's when the people, because none of them, only my wife and I and my kids were Episcopalians. We had been received or confirmed. None of these people had been. Can you imagine the Episcopal church that was planted by people that were not Episcopalians, And some of them that had not even been baptized. So that was when, like officially or formally in a way, they were welcomed into this community. And these people right here, they came from Waco, which is 100 miles away from Manor. And that's where I did my curacy, the ones that gave me that nice looking box. And they said, we know that the bishop is coming. We want to cook for you guys so that you guys don't have to worry about anything, but just do, this first thing that you're going to do with the bishop. And for our community to hear that some people were going to come that were very different from them, they looked very different from this community. They came from a different socioeconomic status than they did. And they were going to drive all these miles to be with us. So what we learned was this thing about removing obstacles. And part of evangelism is that. One is to remove the obstacles, to have the opportunity to be able to tell your story, to practice that within your community, and then go outside. But where are you connecting them to? How many obstacles do we have in our own communities that prevent people from becoming part of who we are, or part of this movement, the Jesus movement? So what we learn is that we need to have compassion. We have to have patience. We have to have humility. We have to be flexible because things didn't go always the way we wanted them. But overall, it was about authenticity. And authenticity is being who you say you are. We try not to put anything on our website or even big signs saying we're a welcoming church. Because some days we're not going to get it right. But we want people to tell us that about us. We want them to tell us the truth about us. So it's easier to be authentic if you don't say you're authentic, right? And so that's part of authenticity. And one thing that somebody said about authenticity is that you have to give opportunity to people to experience who you really are. So not only when you go out into the community and in different places, but the way that you use your space and how you do things says really who you are. People tell us who we are. My thinking process is very different from other church planters, where other church planters, they will come up with even a logo and everything, with the values all written and the colors matching the words. And I was like, man, I can't do that. I'm trying, and I tried for many. I was frustrated in trying to do that work. And I realized that later on we found out that those values were being told by others. They said, this is who St. Mary Magdalene is. This is who they are. And I said, let me write it down, so I could know that I could make my logo with that now. So it's very much about authenticity and being out. You know, where can people experience you? We had the Lions Club because we didn't have no space. You know, there's some freedom about that too. You know, that not having a permanent spot. Being able to go different places. Yeah, that was our first Christmas Eve service right there at the Lions Club Hall in Maynard. And then we started inviting. We put an ad on Facebook saying, "Do you want to be baptized?" And it's like, let's see what people say, you know. And we, you know, those pay ads that just goes to people's feeds. And now it connects with Instagram too. They put it on Instagram and see what people say. And people started connecting with that post and started asking questions. You know, I'm not married. You know, can I still baptize my child? And I didn't have to answer that. There were other people from our community and saying, yes, this is my story. This is what happened to me. This is how I became part of this community. And out of the first ad that we put out, this is one of the little girls that got baptized. That day we had like 7 kids, 7 families that came to be baptized on that Sunday, on that Easter Sunday service that we didn't know before. You know? So you're talking about evangelism, it's about using all the different tools that we have to tell them about this good news. And then people need to have almost like a window to who you really are. And your values again. You know, what do I need to do for that? Do I need to pay? Those are the kind of questions that we were asked. You know, and that's another kid on that day. One, you know, having no space, you had to find places where you're going to do things. And we had done a VBS in the Lions Club every year, air conditioned, really pretty. And they were going into transition. They sold their building to the city, and they were going to build another building. And they said, like, we'll finish it before your VBS, we promise. And they didn't. You know, we had every July we had our VBS. And I said, like, well, I guess we don't do it this year, you know. Get to rest. And then I got a call. I said, like, no, we need to find another place. What about the park? I said, it's almost like the box falling, you know. Like, oh, yeah. It's in the heat in Texas, you know, humidity and equipment that needs to be put and stuff like that. And this is what happened. Let me show you a little bit of the video. Just some baby shampoo and water. Yeah. So I know that I went over my time by 1 minute, but all I wanted to say is that these are the people that I thought I was bringing the good news, but they were setting, what happened there, it was a daily thing. We did it for a whole week. And that thing had to be come back into the trailer, and then out the next day in the heat, and then put it back at the end of the evening, set it up again. And that was the whole week, and they were able to do that because they had experienced something. And now they needed to share it with somebody else, and they couldn't stop. And I think that's what evangelism is. Amen? Thank you so much for your attention. Yeah.